What's up, folks? So, all right, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be looking at how we can have better relationships interpersonally with family. So, we're trying to look at family. What does family do? How does family work? And how do we attempt as best as possible to make sure that we look at the impact of interpersonal communication with the family unit? How does this work with families? And boy, I am sure right now figuring out how to navigate extended family time for some of you has been incredibly interesting. And I'm sure some of you right now have been like, I wish I had family to yell at because I am so bored and lonely in my house. I'm sick of streaming things. Life is killing me right now because I'm just not feeling it. So again, we're going to look at families. What do we know about families? What do we do with families? So I'm going to be posting videos to YouTube with this series. I'm also going to be uploading MP3 audio to this so you have something to listen to as well to kind of keep you, like if you have to go cleaning, you can listen to this lecture. If you want to watch YouTube and you want to watch me, as you can see, the studio's evolved a bit. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, let's hop into this and see what we can do to understand family so we can understand this is a key group of people as far as the folks that make us happy. So what do we need to know about family in order to have happy family? All right. So first off, family identity is created through communication. Who are you? What does that say about you? So I'm in the defining family slide if you're following along in the modules area. So are we an athletic family? Are we an outdoors family? Are we a eat family? Like some of y'all are eat families, right? Like you get together every time you do something, you eat, and it's amazing food, and you have a really wonderful time with that. But how you do and perform your family says a lot about what your family is and what your family looks and feels like. So again, when we're defining our family, we communicate this idea of family through what we do, how we act, how do we show up, what do we look like, things like that. So some defining characteristics of family. Thinking about it, like how do you define family? So take a second. Who is your family? Who is not your family? Who would you consider part of like the people that you trust and love? Who would you consider like maybe just friends, right? Think about whose family. Is it just blood relatives? Is it that family that's adopted you from some other family before? But how do you define it? How do you make that connection? A family is a network of people who share their lives over long periods of time. So anybody can be considered family if they've been in your family life for a long period of time, and there's somebody that is important to you, they've been there with you for a long period of time. Also, it is bound by marriage. So family can be people you marry into. It could be blood relatives, or it could be a sense of commitment. Are you going to be there for folks? Hopefully you're finding like more family right now, given that the world's kind of bananas. Like maybe there's people that you like we just thought were friends, and they're like, hey, I got you. Do you need anything? Like, what's going on, right? Those people are family too. People who are family consider themselves family, so you can't be like, you're my family, and they're like, no, not your family so much, right? It's who is your family, who do you feel as though is your family, and do they consider themselves family back with you? You're only invited to the barbecue if you're invited to the barbecue by them, and they invite you to the barbecue too. But they also need to share some type of significant history. There needs to be some type of anticipated future together, right? So do you have something that like made you a sense of us? And then what is going to make you a sense of us in the future? And I can tell you right now, having a sense of what the future is going to look and feel like is very important. So create some of that future now. Now's a great time to like look at who are we and where are we going and what do we want the world to look like and where do we want to be? The future is a great place to be. So again, how do you define it? But these are some of the book definitions of what is family and what is not family. So other defining characteristics that are part of family, right, is identity. What is your family's identity? How do you see yourself? How do you show up? What do you do? Are you like a Mexican family? Are you a Chinese family? Are you a small family? Are you a giant family? Are you a Greek family? Are you a European family? Like, what does it look like? What do y'all do? What does that make you? How does that feel? You also use communication to define boundaries. What is okay to talk about in the family? What is not okay to talk about in the family? I'm sure you know the okay and not okay things through trial and error. That has been some of the things you've experienced. But, you know, what's okay and what's not okay is part of, like, what happens in family. Like, for me, with my family, with Professor Dew, you know, we just got married. She doesn't like talking about death very much. And it's hard because I'm significantly older than her. And I want her to be comfortable and okay with the fact that I will pass away before her. But she also is really scared at the thought of losing me. And so what can we do to communicate? There was some dogs, people walking dogs outside. You should get outside and walk. You should enjoy some sunshine. All those little things are totally okay. Yeah, you can't be around a lot of people, but it doesn't mean you can't get outside. I think there's something in vitamin D, and salt and sunlight have always been disinfectants forever. So get outside and be outside, because it's a beautiful time to be outside here. They also share very complex emotional bonds, right? You can't just drop family. You can't just ghost family, right? It's harder to do that because there's commitments. They know you from before. The relationship's deeper and it's more significant, so it's a little bit harder to have that sense of distance. You may share genetic material, like maybe you're related, but all of these things also juggle multiple and sometimes competing roles. So it's interesting because you may be like a brother in your family, but if you're an older brother, sometimes you're also kind of part of parent too. Sometimes when dad comes home, you immediately move back to child, and mom comes home, you move immediately back to child, whereas you were the adult without the absence of that parent, right? So there's a lot of different roles, a lot of different expectations. Being a brother to a sister is different than being a brother to a brother, and those things are also always different, always evolving, and sometimes those roles compete with each other, and that's going to lead to some of that family drama that we need to learn how to avoid and navigate a little bit better in the future. So I'm going to read you a quote, and when I read that quote, I want you to think about if this quote relates to you. So we're on, does this relate to you, to resonate with you? The bond that links your true family is not one of blood, but of respect and joy in each other's life. Rarely do members of one family grow up underneath the same roof. So I'm going to read that one more time in case you got your podcast going and you need to hear things so they're repeated. The bond that links your true family is not one of blood, but of respect and joy in each other's life. Rarely do members of one family grow up underneath the same roof. Do you feel like that connects to you? Do you feel like you have a connection or feeling with that? Do you feel like that resonates with you? Do you feel like that's something that's part of who you are? Like, think about that, right? And remember, one of the coolest things about family is you get to make more family. You're in an age and space where now's the time to like make more family. And I'm not saying abandon your family, but create the family that you want. And I heard a wonderful quote. You should write this quote down because it's such a dope quote. It's not my quote. I wish it was. It was really good. But it said, we are given the problems of our parents to forever change for the rest of our family's line and lineage. So again, right? Sometimes we are given bad programming, bad messages, bad issues, and it is up to us to take that and forever change that so it's always different. Otherwise, the pattern and program continues, right? What are we doing to change some of that stuff so we can rewrite our family in the way that we want to see it or the way we want it to be? So there's a lot of different families. There's a nuclear family. That's going to be dad, mom, parents. There can be extended family, cousins out the yin-yang. Cousins and uncles and aunties and theos and theas and abuelas and all that stuff, right? Like giant families. Sometimes we have step families. We learned about this in the identity circle. Step family can be really close. Step family can be kind of distant. It's just weird because like you never can tell, right? Sometimes step family's so deep you don't even consider yourself step family because you're a good and happy and functional family now, and that's what mattered most. There's cohabitating couples, like people that are just living together, and they are a form of family. That's not insignificant. You don't have to necessarily be married. But no, cohabitating couples do have a sense of familial relationship, especially if you're in a romantic relationship specifically. There's single-parent families and the dynamics that go along with single-parent families, right? Like everybody pitches in on chores, everybody cooks dinner. Everybody has some responsibility for the family. It's not just parents. And then we have voluntary kin family. Those people that are related to us because they choose to be connected with us. And I always appreciate the voluntary kin family in my life and world. Family stories are narrative accounts that are shared repeatedly within a family that retell historical events and bond the family together. So sometimes there's courtship stories. How did mom and dad meet? Like what makes a mom and dad a mom and dad? There's birth stories, right? So my birth story was I weighed 12 and a half pounds. Look at me. You would think I would just be like this giant baby, this giant human being, but as it turns out, not so much. But I was 12 and a half pounds. My mom was only 98 pounds. She was on crutches before she had me. Like, damn. See how that's a birth story in my family? How can that not be a birth story? Like, she had like a toddler. And then there's survival stories, right? When you made it through things. I think some of the best stories that come from families are not the stories where everything was perfect, because everybody wants like the perfect camping trip, the perfect vacation, the perfect party, where everything goes perfectly. But those aren't the stories you retell, right? It's the camping trip where it rained the whole time and the tent had a leak and you were freezing and you couldn't get the wood to light and all you did is eat cold chocolate and granola bars, right? You didn't get s'mores. Well, you tell that story because you made it through that thing. Like, you know what's bananas right now? Is you are creating a survival story right now as we survive through this crazy COVID pandemic thing. Like, you're creating a survival story. You're creating a survival story for you and your family. You might be the first person in your family to go to college, and you're going to be able to say, you know what? I went through and finished school through a global pandemic, and I still got grades. I still did it. You're awesome. And you need to remember that. Because you're out here and you're doing it. And I'm proud of you. And you should be proud of yourself too. Survival stories. Those are always really interesting. My partner, her last name's Du, so we're like the professor's D. And so in my partner's family, they tell the story of, you're a Do. And Do's don't quit. And that's just part of what they are, right? Like, you're a do, and do's don't quit. My partner tells the story, and she says, I don't know exactly what that means or what it meant. But I remember being like, I am a do. And that must mean we don't quit, right? And, that's part of, who they are. And you know that song, Tub Thumping? I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. One of the things you should be doing in your family right now, sing a lot, dance a lot, play a lot. Because, there's so much to be scared and worried about. Your family needs you to sing. They really need you to dance. Your family needs you to play. So make sure you're doing some of that stuff to keep, your family, whoever's with you, in upper spirits, better spirits. But, it was funny because, my partner tells the story of, you're a do, and do's don't quit. And they were one of her students is like, well, I'm a Gonzalez, and Gonzalez's don't quit. You need to do that for you, too. What is that family story? What is that new, your family came in with something. What's the new story? How's that going to change, and what will that look like together? There's some great videos on the family stories slide that you might want to check out if you want better examples or other examples of this and how it works. Communicating in families. So there's patterns that talk about how families converse. What do they do, right? When stuff goes down. Is it family meeting time? Uh-oh. Or do you do the opposite, right? Your parent comes home in a terrible mood. And you're like, ooh, oh man, we're not going to talk about anything right now because we can tell it's bad, right? Or maybe one of the patterns is your parents arguing the other bit, in the bedroom or something. You start cleaning. You're like, oh man, they're going to come out after us if they don't have this argument resolved, right? What are the patterns that make your family communicate? What kind of family patterns does your family use to communicate? There's different dimensions with communication. And so again, with the family communication patterns theory, there's a video embedded in that too. So take some time and look at that and learn, because unless we change the code of family with the things that we don't like some of the code we want to keep, some of the code we need to change. Let's look at what are those paradigm shifting things that we need to do differently in family. So do your family have a conversation orientation? This means they talk about things and they talk about everything, right? Hey Billy, are you sexually active? Or Cisco, there's a lot of different girls coming in, right? Do you talk about all these different things? Or do you adopt more of a conformity orientation? We emphasize similarity. We emphasize our diversity, right? But we don't talk about everything. There's certain things that we just don't discuss. right? My family was much more conversation oriented. We talked about everything. And there was times, it's been hard because one of my patterns is my mom would lecture me as a form of punishment. Like, we talk and talk and talk and talk until I understood like why this was a problem and why it wants to change, which was great because it was better than getting like punished, like because I understood the why behind things. But now it's hard because when there's a hard conversation, sometimes I can feel like that's a form of lecturing, and that's problematic too, right? Because I can't feel my partner's lecturing me if we have a problem we need to fix, right? We need to like see some of those things differently, work through those things. And then also, like, do your families conform? Do they like, no, we don't talk about these things. No, we don't do these things. Like a Ramirez family doesn't act this way. That's not what Ramirez's do, right? So think about it. Do you come from a conversation orientation where you talk about a lot of different topics? Or do you come from a conforming orientation that emphasizes similarity or emphasizes the diversity that makes you unique primarily? Like, what are the strengths and weaknesses of that? Neither are right or wrong. They're just different. Like, again, is it helpful or is it harmful? And what do you want to repeat or what do you want to change? It's just that simple. Family patterns. So there's a couple different patterns and they work in a couple different ways. The first one is consensual families. These are the families that look for everybody to like get to say, and we want to make sure everybody's on board, and we want to make sure that everybody's understanding things and moving things forward together, right? We have protective families, and boy, you can see protective families out there right now. How much toilet paper do you need? Like, it's funny, and there's like no rice out there, there's no pasta out there. Like, who's eating all this pasta right now? I bet carbs are like the enemy. Going off topic. Protective families, right? They huddle up, they get closer together, they look out for each other when things get a little bit more difficult, right? They're a little bit more wary of outsiders, they're a little bit more scared of outsiders, a little bit harder to like win that family over and move forward. There's laissez-faire families, which are like, hey, you're going to do you, like you know best, we trust you, we've taught you, good luck, right? A little bit more hands-off, a little bit more, hey, we're going to let you make the mistakes, right? If you think about Emily from Alligator River, Emily was definitely the laissez-faire. I don't want to get involved in this, right? You do your thing. I don't know. I don't want to be part of it. Then there's pluralistic families. These are the families that emphasize the different roles in different ways, and they see people as their own unique person, and they don't try to like push that conformity onto anybody else. If you have more questions about this one, I don't feel like I'm necessarily describing this really well. And if you need a little bit better understanding, shoot me an email, and I will definitely look at what I can do to make this a little bit more clear for you. To maintain family relationships, what we need to do is communicate with each other. If a relationship's not getting better, it's getting worse. How do we communicate and understand each other so we can move forward better? How do we have more clear, more understandable communication so we can be a better us together? Maintenance strategies for families. One of the things you want to do is emphasize positivity, right? Hey, at least you got somebody around you that loves you right now, right? Or we're do's and do's don't quit, right? Or, we're going to live together to see a better tomorrow, right? What can you do to emphasize positivity? What can you do to show we are here now, but we're hoping to get here later, right? What makes us grow? What makes us do things better? Another thing is assurances. I'm going to always be here for you. I'm always going to love you. Like, I appreciate you and I love you deeply, but this hurt me and I need you to stop this behavior, right? We don't reject people. We ask for behaviors to stop because we want the behaviors to be different so we can have better relationships, right? But we provide assurances. Like, we say, I'm going to be here for you. I'm going to love you. As long as you show effort and growth towards this thing, like, we're good, right? But we have to have people feel we're good so we can know we're good. And then lastly, we need to engage in self-disclosure. Like, what's going on? What's happening in you on the inside? Like, what are you scared about? Are you talking about your fears through this pandemic? Are you talking about your breakthroughs? Are you talking about your hopes and dreams? Are you talking about, like, your family, like, completely unsupportive of you going to school right now, given everything that's going on? Are you like scared because you like got laid off or you lost your job, right? If you got laid off and lost your job, please go get unemployment assurance. It's like the Arizona Jobs Council. If you don't know what that is, email me and I'll find it for you. Unemployment insurance is not a handout, a government handout. Unemployment insurance is something that you've been paying into as part of your taxes and your paycheck that entitles you to get some money in case you get laid off, in case you lose your job. A lot of people are losing their jobs right now. So please don't think of unemployment insurance as a handout from the government. It is insurance that you have been paid into that helps you through times like this if you have lost your job as a server, as a cook, whatever. So do go get unemployment insurance because that's a little bit extra money and that can help you get through some of that stuff. But right, you have to be like, hey, I got fired. You didn't get fired, you get laid off. And maybe you didn't even get laid off. Maybe you're just temporarily suspended because of like your restaurant's not open, right? But talk about how that feels. Like, I'm feeling useless. I'm feeling scared. It's okay. Like, your family might be freaked out at first, especially if you start disclosing like that and they're not used to it. But the more you disclose and the more they really know what's going on with you, the better they can accept you. This is something that we're definitely going to be using a lot more now. Technology as a form of family maintenance. So family who communicate frequently through email or Facebook or instant message also tend to frequently communicate face-to-face or on the phone more. But remember, whatever way you reach out, connect, right? Call your cousin, call your uncle, like you're lonely. Just check on people, see how they're doing, right? Like, they're going to be excited to hear from you. When's the last time we called your grandma? Like, you should call your grandma. Like, a lot right now. Your grandma's probably shut in, like, going stir crazy. And you can tell her about what you're learning in interpersonal communication with Professor D. Like, I found that we're a protective family, our pluralistic family, or you're a more laissez-faire, right? You can talk about these things with your grandma and tell her about some of the stories and what you're learning. Think about it, though. How does your family communicate? And what can you do to make more communication? If this is a pattern you want to change, what can you do to do that differently? Some of the things that happen in families is there's dialectics. There's two things that are competing tensions that cause problem. The first one is the need for autonomy, right? That I am a grown-ass person and I can be my own individual, right? This is a need. The other need here is connection, right? I want to feel connected, loved. I want to feel part of something bigger. These things are always in dynamic tension with each other, right? Because you want to be a grown-ass adult. But then sometimes when you're sick, you want to be treated like a baby. Right? You see how that works? Like, you want to be autonomous, but you also want to have connection. Like, you sacrifice a little bit of autonomy to have connection. And this becomes an issue when people are teenagers. Because they're trying to become autonomous, find out who they are, get a sense of what they're thinking and feeling. But they also want to be connected. And it's hard because, like, when they are connected, they don't feel like they have a sense of who they are or who they're becoming. So reach out to your younger brothers and sisters and understand this autonomy, connection, like tension is something that they're going through. But that's where I think you can really validate who they are, give them some assurances about that we're always going to be connected, even though you might like this and I might like that. Those little things really help people see and feel connected. Now, the next one is dealing with openness and protection. So openness is like, I want to be open, I want to share, I want to be completely honest about everything that's going on, right? Can you imagine if you really did that with your family? Dear God, right? I'm sure there's things in your head that are like, oh my God, if my dad knew this. Versus protection, right? We want to shield people from bad things. We want to keep them, we don't want to keep some of our secrets. We want to be able to not have to tell everybody everything, right? But again, it's another tension, right? You want to be open, you want to share, but then you know there's parts of like things that like Uncle Greg is never going to want to talk about, right? And how do you deal with those things? Because you like Uncle Greg, he took you fishing, he was cool, but then like you can't talk to him about politics because like it's always an argument, and you want to protect your relationship from that tension, right? You see how these things are always in dynamic tension. A great video in the slides on communication privacy management theory, so I'd check that out. But then also create family privacy rules. What are the boundaries and what are the guidelines, and how do you follow those things, right? Sometimes people will be like, you cannot open or look at my phone. That is not okay. In my family, both my partner and I both have access to each other's passwords because that's our family dynamic. Like, that's what we pick to do. It's okay. We tend to have each other's passwords because we don't worry about those things. But like other people may not be that way, right? If you had family or parents that were much more nosy or in your business, like maybe you don't do those things as much. Challenges that happen in family relationships is step-family transitions. So when there's two different families and they're coming together, there's my kids, there's your kids, there's her kids, there's his kids. You're not my dad. You're not my dad. Don't tell me what to do. Poor stepdads. Stepmoms, too. You're not my mom. Gosh, Tina. Like, what's your problem? Step-family transitions are really difficult, right? Because you're mourning the loss of one parent, or at least like what you felt and thought was normal. And there's somebody here that's new, that's like trying to connect sometimes. But we can be real jerks to step-family in some ways, because they're not who we first wished for. But is it really their fault that they're not who we first wished for? Like, not really. Not when you think about it. Like, think of more, are they there for you? Do they provide you insurances? Are they positive? Do they self-disclose? Do they love you for you? Right? If they love you for you, maybe it doesn't matter how much your real dad gets a hold of you anymore or not. You know? Like, my mom's great. Like, I didn't have a dad, but, like, my mom's been solid. Like, maybe instead of worrying about where my dad is, I can appreciate that my mom's been there, right? Or with my in-laws, right? I finally have, like, a father figure now in Mr. Do, because Mr. Do loves me and treats me like one of his own, right? But you see how that's a great opportunity to connect. Another issue with families is sometimes parents, well, I shouldn't even say it like that. Parents favor kids. There's some kids they connect with, they like a little bit more, and they never say that you're not my favorite kid. But, like, you've seen, like, potential favoritism among your brothers and sisters, right? You've seen favoritism in your friends and your uncles and your aunts and your cousins. Sometimes they like one kid, and then there's the black sheep kid, right? The one that kind of does their own thing. The one that they're like, oh, if they can only just get their stuff together, right? Like, parental favoritism happens because, like, you like some people more than you like other people, and you don't get to pick what type of kid you have. You have a kid, and then you have these preferences and dislikes, and then now your kid likes all your dislikes, and you're like, oh, I don't know what to talk to you about. Let's watch football. And like, I'm trying to do art, Dad. Like, that doesn't connect with me, right? Or I want to be a chef someday, right? And you're like, oh, man, I'm like a camping type person, right? Like, that parental favoritism becomes a problem, too. And then interparental conflict. Whew. To the parents out there, if you have kids and they're home with you and you're trying to do college and you just lost your job or you don't know how you're going to make ends meet, like, wow. Again, just hats off to you. You're doing an excellent job, and I couldn't be prouder of you as your professor. I really do love and care about you, and we are living through unprecedented times. But you don't have to solve everything every moment. You just got to figure out today, one step at a time, and do the best you can. Because that's what it's about, right? But with parents, as much as possible, you want to be on the same page. You want to make decisions together. That's why you used to be like, hey, Dad, can I go over to blah, blah, blahs when you know Mom said no? Because you were exploiting that interparental conflict. Oh, man, we were such jerks, weren't we? Golly, that wasn't cool. We need to be better than that. But again, like, stay on the same page. You may not agree with the decision, but maybe you need to be on the same page with this decision for your family's structure, for your family's solidarity, for your family's sense of self. What other examples can you think of that are family relationships challenged? Like, what other conflicts do you think arise? Like, think about that. If you want, you can add these to the comments. That would be dope. I'd love to, like, see, like, comments on the YouTube page. But also, like, these things can show up in your reflective papers and things of that nature. So lastly, what I'm going to ask you to do as part of the discussion for this class is I'm going to ask you to share an artifact for one another. So I'm going to ask you to upload either a picture, an object, a certificate. It's something from your home that symbolizes you and your family's story, right? And you're not going to form groups of 4 to 5 people, but you're going to talk about your family story, like who, what, when, where, how did all that good stuff work? And then you're also going to try to talk about who's there, what do they mean to you, how do they connect to you, what does this group of people say about you? What does this group of people like do to help you understand one another? I'm trying to go to the assignments, but I couldn't be having a more difficult time with this process. But I want you to like type that up, and I want you to give me like a good like, I want to say 4 to 5 sentences, because this is gonna be what takes place, the place of our discussion boards together. So think, oh my, Atlanta. All right, here we go. So with those assignments, I want you to talk about all those little things so we can understand some of that stuff a little bit better. Here we go. Fine. I'll make sure I pull this up next time so I don't know. Post an artifact, a picture, a video, a song, something that symbolizes your family. I want you to share the story with your family. I want you to classify the stories in accordance with textbook discussion. And then I want, like, what does it say about your family as far as family categories? Are you an open family? Are you a laissez-faire family? And then what do these stories teach you about who you are? Then I want you to find a classmate and ask a question and share how you connect with their artifact or their story. But you just need to respond to at least one other person with this. I will also upload an example of what an A looks like for this, so you get a sense of what I'm looking for with this. But this is our way of understanding these concepts and ideas a little bit more, and understanding a family style that's different than your own. Because I know you know your own family style, but what do we do to understand other people's family styles? So with that, I don't know, man. New studio, new place. I'm gonna upload this to YouTube. Gonna post this in the right under the family area and make sure that you have access to these things, so we can do the best we can. And looking forward to making a couple other of these. And again, I just couldn't be more proud of you and hanging in there and doing your best. If you felt like this was helpful, like, you can share it with other people. I don't want to keep this knowledge separate since we're going to be forced into this situation. Maybe you have an amazing family conversation about families and interpersonal communication with your family, and how can you do interpersonal communication with your family better. Or maybe this is the worst time in the world to try to have that discussion because you're getting on each other's nerves, like, to that degree. I don't know. But no, I'm proud of you, and I appreciate every little bit of effort you give me. And we're going to make it through this. We're just going to do it one step at a time, one assignment at a time. And, like, let's just make it through together. And I'm here for you. And if you need anything, I'm going to be looking at how I can be online or available with chat. But if you need to talk to me, know that I'm available via chat. Know that I'm available via email. And I appreciate you and all your thoughts and ideas. And one step at a time, we'll get there, right? So with that, y'all be blessed. And I will see you in the next podcast video. Take care.